Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the flight sim world. This is Viperstrike 95. I hope you're all doing well here today on Microsoft Flight Sim. And today we're back with another leg of our world tour, leg 48. We're almost halfway to 100 legs so far. I hope you're all doing well here today. And we're back here at Merida, Mexico, as we prepare for our next two legs. We're heading to Mexico City today. So great to have you guys here on this trip. So the plan for today is we're going to be taking the 737-800 over first to Tuxtla Gutierrez, which is located at Mike Tango Golf. That will be our first stop of the day. And then afterwards, we'll be doing a little bit longer flight. We'll fly from there over to beautiful Mexico City, the capital and largest city in Mexico, if not the largest city in all of North America as well. That's what we're going to be doing today. Just some simple airline flying. We'll be giving you guys plenty of information that we need to know about this part of Mexico. And we still got plenty of notes for our journey into Mexico. So it's good to have you guys here. So I want to say hello to everyone. We have Super Typhon, my trusty moderators here. And hello to all the lurkers in chat. Good to have you guys here too. You guys are more than welcome to lurk and just check out the stream from there. So I should be getting ready to go. Get ready and get going pretty soon. So let's go ahead and get our 737-800 started. So quick works this on. We're gonna get the ground power going. Power will turn on. On the yaw damper. APU bleed is going to be turned on. So once we get that on, I'm going to turn on the EPU generator. Get ready for our setup here. We're going to turn the packs on to auto. And we're going to go ahead and set up the flight. So let's go look at reference. Here, root, Mike Delta. 10. Mike. Take a golf. Yeah, Mexico would be a really cool country, by the way, for our virtual airline. Mexico would be a really cool area to have a hub. I think Mexico would be a logical place for Firefly Air to build a hub. Because, like Canada, Mexico has some really great airports to visit. There we go. Okay, there's that. This one's it's gonna be not too long of a flight. This one is gonna be about 1 hour and 1 minute flight. Just a payload. Next. 589. Woo! Let's do that. And that's going to be 105. And for approach, altitude 35,000. 36. It's actually 36,000. And our land altitude is going to be 1,500 feet. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Really good. Collision light on. Time we get rid of all the chalk. Close. We're going to turn on all the fuel pumps. So we set on, off. We don't need to push back here. We don't have anything. We could push back, but we don't really need it. Let's go ahead and... Okay, this is officially off. On Pro Heat. On. The three packs. That's officially it. And I'm going to turn on the auto throttle. 160. Oh yeah, and we're just set up ready to go. So we're gonna be flying from Meridia to Texala Gutierrez, and then after that we'll be going from there over to Mexico City. So this should be a pretty exciting flight into Mexico, honestly. Turn on the RTO, reverse takeoff. So I got plenty of notes from Mexico for today. Hey, Boozy Sheep, good to see you, my dude. I hope you had a good stream last night. You guys don't know about Boozy Sheep? He's a really good friend of mine too. Makes some great flights and stuff. He does a lot, bats and stuff, and he flies both GA and airliners. So good to see you, my dude. Thanks for giving him the shout out, Typhon. But we're doing some flights in Mexico today. We're going from Meridia over to Tuxtla Gutierrez, and then from there to Mexico City. And the reason I decided to do the airliners today for Mexico City is A, Mexico is a pretty large country. Let's not forget Mexico is a surprisingly large country. And next is also the fact I want to do some time for GA in around the Mexico City tequila area, which would probably be pretty stunning for sure. Like, there's so much about Mexico I would really like to do some flying around, like Monterey and all that. So, and we've officially made takeoff here in beautiful Merida. If you went there last week, we actually flew around this area last week, and that was amazing. Or Chichen Itza. You guys can talk about Chichen Itza. That was pretty fun. And now, yeah, Mexico is actually quite nice for general aviation, Boozy. There are some really good areas around Mexico for GA. Of course, the Mexico City area. If you don't like flying urban areas, Mexico City is quite nice to fly around. Of course, you also have the area around Monterey, the Cumbres Park. That's a really cool site. I know Big Bend's around Texas, but around the Big Bend area, it's quite good too. And of course, let's not forget, Baja California has some really neat general aviation around Baja California. Super nice to do some flying around. Oh, loud. Yeah, sorry about that. Plane's a little loud. Uh, no worries, Typhon. Thank you for pointing that out. Hey, sorry about that. So, yeah, Mexico would be really nice, and I'm hoping that maybe our VA has one in Mexico because I would really want a North America Latin hub. I know Quito's a really good hub for that, but I would like to have one in Mexico. There's just really good cities in that area. Um, for example, let's say Mexico City or Guadalajara is the hub, we can fly to places like Guadalajara. We can fly to Mexico City, Cancun, um, Acapulco, San Jose del Cabo, Monterrey, Orion, Mazatlan, all the really cool Mexican plus the Central America destinations like Nicaragua, Salvador, and all that. It would be a very beautiful hub for our virtual airline. No one's talking about a lot about my virtual airline, but I think it would be much better. Mexico is just really underserved in the sim. What Mexico's really So, for our slideshow today, we're going to talk a little bit about Mexico. I'm not going to do all of the Mexico slides today because, well, the thing is, we also have one whole other flight. So we're going to talk about Mexico's geography. This is one of the really interesting things about Mexico is its geography. If you look to the picture, we have the topographic map of all of Mexico. If you notice one thing about Mexico's topography, is a lot of this area is very mountainous. There are mountains all over the country, but particularly around the center of the country. That's because this is the Ati Plateau in Mexico. But you can definitely see there's a lot of mountainous areas around Mexico City, all throughout the northern central part of Mexico is the Alpine Plateau. That goes through much of Mexico. The Mexican Altiplano, which stretches from the United States border to the volcano, and that expands the vast part of the land between eastern and western Mexico. And it's not uncommon for a lot of this to be very hilly and high altitude. That makes a big part, and that's because there are mountain ranges all across the country. There's Sierra Madre Oriental, the Big Bend area, much more. There's also over 150 rivers in Mexico, 2/3 empty into the Pacific, or the remainder flow into the Gulf of Mexico or the Caribbean Sea. But despite all those rivers, 5 of the rivers account for nearly half of Mexico's average volume of surface water. Those rivers being the Ucayali, the Guerrilla Java, the Papalopan, Coast, and the Panaco are the 5 major rivers in Mexico. And those rivers are home to quite a lot of the wildlife and play a big role in the country's geography, ecology, and economy. Other prominent rivers include the Rio Grande, the Rio Lerma, and the Rio Usumacinta. And of course, Mexico also gets quite a bit of earthquakes too, because obviously with all the mountainous areas and volcanoes, Mexico gets quite a few earthquakes. But you're surprised, but Mexico is one of the most active regions of seismology on Earth. And that's because most of the Mexican landmass rests on the leftward moving North America plate. That's why we get quite a bit of earthquakes all throughout Mexico. And there's some really destructive ones too, including 1985 an 8.0 earthquake at Acapulco, for example. But there's a lot of earthquakes. The point I'm trying to get at is that Mexico is geographically very diverse, with things such as rainforest, desert, alpine conditions. That doesn't just play a role into its geology; it also plays a role into its climate too. And you also have the Tropic of Cancer as well. So you have temperate areas in Mexico, such as some of the areas north and stuff. You got arid desert, tropical rainforest. Mexico has it all. It has so many geographic features, only rivaled by that in North America with the United States of America. For example, many parts of Mexico, especially in the north, have a drier climate, while the parts of tropical lowlands can average more than 78 inches of rain. They have a wide range of different temperatures in Mexico's climate. Pretty crazy to think about, but Mexico's climate very diverse. There have been many records. For example, the highest it's ever been was in the Sonora region in 1966 with 126.5 degrees Fahrenheit, whereas the lowest record was negative 20 degrees in Chihuahua. Pretty crazy to think about. Diverse climate, and that depends on each of the different. In the picture, for example, you definitely see, for example, the hot deserts mainly in Baja California in the western half. When you get more You definitely just see all the different varieties, hot and cold and all that. And then of course this reflects also with its biodiversity too. And again, you wouldn't think of this at first glance, but Mexico is actually one of the most biodiverse countries on Earth, which is pretty crazy to think about. And it's one of the 17 megadiverse countries, and it's ranked fourth in the world in biodiversity, which is pretty crazy to think about. In fact, Mexico is home to 10 to 12% of the world's biodiversity, but it's number one ranked with reptiles, second ranked mammals, fourth in amphibian and plant species. There's also the second country in the world with the most amount of ecosystems overall, and fourth in overall species. There's tons of different animals that live all across Mexico. And they could range widely from the mighty jaguar, which, by the way, is a very sacred animal in Aztec traditions. The Aztecs, to porpoises, the oceans. They got agave plants throughout much of the deserts. Agave, tons of animals. In fact, many of its wildlife and stuff is pretty crazy. But there's so many animals. Of course, there's also tons of national parks. There's 67 national parks, 34 biosphere reserves, 4 natural monuments, 26 protected areas at least. But there's tons of stuff that live all across Mexico. There's a ton of animals. There's just a wide range of them. Yeah, they have tons of animals. It's super diverse. They mainly got tons of armadillo species across Mexico. They're, they got tons of animal species. But of course, Mexico is a lot more known for reptiles. There are tons of species of reptiles here in Mexico. There's about 995 species of reptiles, including 54 species of turtles, including the world's largest turtle, the leatherback sea turtle, as well as home to different crocodilian species like the American crocodile, American alligator, and caiman both live here. And of course, a ton of lizard and snake species. So, from the boa constrictor to from boa constrictor to rattlesnake species, there is a ton of animals that live all across Mexico. Pretty crazy to think. Mexico is definitely one of the most biodiversity countries in the world. I'll leave it off to those notes for a bit. I'm not gonna try and we're gonna cruise up to 6,000. We're gonna cruise to 36,000 feet. So yeah, one of the major things about Mexico, not the eastern part, is the eastern part, like the Yucatan and the lowlands, are quite flat. But once you get into more of the interior, it's much more hilly and all that. That's kind of what makes Mexico quite unique in that. So I want to ask you guys if you got any plans for this weekend. For me at least, it really isn't that much for me to plan for this weekend. I just got to prepare for Sunday stream. Thankfully, I got all the notes worked on for the next 2 weeks, so we're pretty much good for tomorrow's stream. And then, of course, in Discord, I will be posting the rest of the next 7 legs this trip, next 7 days for the around the world trip. I'm thinking about doing a 2-leg flight in the 777, Guadalajara to Monterrey, and then a longer flight from Monterey over to Phoenix. Because I do want to check out Mexico's second largest city. Or just do a straight flight over from Mexico to Phoenix. But I want to do some flying there. But I'll let you know what I'm going to do. Let's go ahead and... But I do want to catch up with some sports stuff. It's been a while, but my Rays, by the way, are second to last in the AL East. Still 2.5 games above the Blue Jays. But man, the Orioles and the Yankees have been absolutely dominant all year. The AL Central's got the Guardians beating up the Twins and the Royals. They're looking to be the best team in baseball this year. And then the AL West has been now controlled by the Astros. And in the National League, the Marlins are terrible. The Phillies are still dominant. They're still the best team. Them and the Dodgers are the two best teams in the National League. Brewers are playing quite well. The Reds are 9 games out. Oh. And yeah, the White Sox are complete, utter trash. I have to tell you that much. But the thing I'm most interested in waiting for is for the college football season to finally start. It will be started on next Saturday, where the college football season would start, and that's Florida State, Georgia Tech in Dublin. And after that would be a couple Thursday night games, mainly um, with Kansas and North Carolina State. Murray State's going to be there against Missouri on Thursday night. But the big game for week one, though, is going to be Clemson, Georgia. That's going to be the big game. Clemson v. Georgia. That's going to be a very big game. That should be a big matchup. Also, Notre Dame, Texas A&M. That's going to be a pretty exciting Saturday night matchup. And then USC, LSU, and Death Valley. It's going to be insane, though. And 9 game at Death Valley. That's going to be always interesting to have. That's mainly the top 25. Yeah, Louisville actually did not make the top 25 standings this week um because Louisville was actually ranked 26 in the poll, one out of the top 25. Um, very very cool. Now, if you want to know who I think is going to probably win the ACC this year, since U of L football is going to be here, this is going to be a tough one because this is going to be an interesting conference this year because the ACC now has California, Stanford, and SMU into the conference. Which I know it doesn't fit the ACC because ACC stands for Atlantic Coast Conference, except those teams are not in the Atlantic Coast. They're all the way in the other side of the country. Yeah, blame the TV money for that one. I mean, this should be a difficult conference this year, though, because Florida State's good. Clemson's always good, too. But I mean, also Miami's going to be good this year. North Carolina State's ranked. I mean, there are four ACC teams ranked in the top 25, plus Louisville at 26. Yeah, this should be an interesting conference this year. I'm hoping Louisville does well, but it is not going to be easy with those other teams around, and I'm not going to underestimate any of them. But yeah, I mean, college football this year, it's going to be the weirdest year college football's had in a long time. Think about this. Here's some pretty unusual things happening. Of course, we all know ACC has California, Stanford, and SMU. The Big 12 has now added teams like Utah's now in the conference. Utah's brought back. Colorado returns to the Big 12 this season, and Arizona State are now in the Big 12. It's always interesting. Plus UCF's in the conference. And of course, even crazier, the Big 10 now has Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA. Not even in the Midwest. At least the SEC's conference thing makes sense. I know Texas and Oklahoma aren't technically in the Southeast, but at least they're around the area. So it's not that unusual to add. It's going to be weird. If only I had college football 25, I could be showing you guys off by Road to Glory. But it's on Xbox, not on PC. So we're very close to our cruise altitude for today at 36,000 feet. So we're getting pretty close to 30,000 feet. Definitely see off the coast. Of course, Mexico's Gulf of Mexico coastline. Now, of course, a lot of you guys probably know the Gulf of Mexico for all the oil drilling and stuff. This was actually an area where there was a lot of oil on the side. But this is also an area in this area that also gets a lot of shark attacks. There's quite a lot of shipwrecks. There's also lots of animal species living here. But the major issue with the Gulf of Mexico is a lot of pollution stuff because of all the oil and drilling and stuff. Hey, Sleazy does again. Good to see you. We're actually doing our around the world trip today. We're doing leg number. We are in the airliners today because we got quite a bit of Mexico to fly to, and this area isn't really exciting for general aviation. We're actually going to take the airliner today. Um, we're heading to Texas Gutierrez for the first leg, and then leg number 2 is going to be Mexico City. So that's why we're taking the airliners today, is because we're doing. That's why we're taking the 7-3 today. That's because a lot of the better GA stuff in Mexico is mainly going to be with Mexico City, is the Mexico City area in the Alti Plateau. That's where you get a lot of the pretty cool areas in Mexico. Hey, good to see you, Zippy. 737 chill. Yeah, Zippy, it is indeed. 737 chill, baby. Gotta chill out, you know. Now, of course, not all relays are required to be airliners. I know after Sunday stream there will be another airliner leg, but um, it's mainly going to be for getting to Phoenix. Since I want to keep this pretty speedy though. I want to take too long since we've got all these countries to visit. Like most of the stuff's going to be GA. Just don't want to bore people to death based on being there as well. So we're going to be doing some flying around here. So the next part about Mexico we want to talk about is its government. Mexico's government, it is they are actually technically it's called the United States of Mexico, United Mexican States, what it's officially called. But they are a federation whose government is a representative democratic republican government based on the 1917 Constitution. There are 3 levels of government in Mexico: the federal union, the state governments, and the municipal governments. Are the 3 levels of government. And there's also 3 levels. You have the Congress, which is bicameral, composed of the Senate and the Chamber of Deputies. Congress makes federal law, declares war, imposes taxes, and improves the national budget. And they are elected by a system of parallel voting, which includes plurality, proportional representation. Chamber of Deputies have 500 of them, whereas the Senate comprises of 128 senators. Then you have the executive, which is the president of the United Mexican States, head of state and government, as well as the commander-in-chief of the Mexican Armed Forces. And then, of course, the judicial branch, which is independent of executive and stuff. The highest branch of that is the Supreme Court. But there have been 3 major parties in Mexico that have dominated historically. Of course, PRI, the Institutional Revolutionary Party, the PRI, which dominated Mexico for much of the 20th century. Then you have the National Action Party, more conservative party, and the Party of Democratic Revolution, a left wing. Of the 3 major parties that dominate Mexican politics. But historically, Mexico, for much of its history was dominated by one party. It's hard to believe they dominated for nearly 70 years for one party, especially in a Republican government like Mexico. Go ahead. I'm going to set up for top of the scent just in case. So, in the flight sim community, there is a couple things going on for our flight sim community over the week or so. So, today, Murph's going to be live today in Cyprus. He's going to be taking the Twin Otter and doing some tours around all of Cyprus, which should be pretty interesting. We will be visiting Cyprus on our journey eventually. It'll take us some time before we get to truly visit all of Cyprus. Which should be nice. And then, of course, Saturday's going to be Allison Johnson's stream. She'll be back with another recreation flight, which is going to be in Calcutta over to Chittagong, Bangladesh, and then to Bagan, Myanmar. Now, we've been through around some of this area last year. We flew for a round the world trip to Calcutta, Telegram, and we went our way. I think it was, oh yeah, it was Nagpur over to Chiang Mai, and we went all the way through coast. But it was a really interesting flight in the DC-3. Yeah, it brings me back to the memories. I took DC-3 for some pretty long flights. That brings us back quite a bit of times. So, Robinson's coming up to Tuxtla Gutierrez. That will be our first stop. Nice and chill. And of course, one of the really cool things we'll talk about on Sunday, we'll talk about plenty about Mexican culture and stuff. And that's because you guys know anything about Mexico. But I'm going to give you a bit of an update for Sunday stream. So, one of the really cool things we'll talk about on Sunday is Mexico's culture, which is among the world's richest cultures. I kid you not. Especially Mexico's cuisine, which is considered by many to be one of the world's great cuisines, is Mexico's food. Mexico's food is it's just special. And the big reason for that is like Mexico's cuisine is very flavorful. There's tons of variation to its cuisine. That's why Mexico's cuisine is one of the world's finest. And there's just so many different types of themes, shirts, food, and all. There's that too. And of course, on Sunday, once we get to Mexico City, we'll be doing a GA hop over from. We'll do some GA flying from Mexico City over to Puerto Vallarta. A really cool area to visit. I visited there in real life earlier in the year to Puerto Vallarta. a really cool city with a really cool history. Oh yeah, we're Huevos Ranchero. Yes, Huevos Ranchero. Ah yes, that's pretty cool though. Basically, very popular for a lot of the rural area. Basically, fried eggs served on lightly fried or churned corn tortilla, topped with spicy salsa, and accompanied by like refried beans, Mexican style rice, and guacamole. Yeah, Mexican cuisine is just such it's so cool though because there's so many really delicious foods. That's why Mexican cuisine is so popular, not just in Mexico. I mean, it's popular all over the world, mainly in the United States, because obviously outside of Mexico, there are a lot of Mexican influence in the United States. So, you guys want to get any more news about my streams? I have it my yes. Tex-Mex is very. That's what it is. Tex-Mex is basically um. So yeah, Tex-Mex is actually they call it they often call it Tex-Mex and basically um it's basically those are the Chicano people, which is basically Tex-Mex is a lot of it is used or also used for Mexico, but also use those as well. Basically, it's more for American cuisine taste and stuff compared to traditional Mexican cuisine. And I'm familiar with both those cuisines myself. Like I think most of the ones Americans eat is Tex-Mex, but there are some in the United States that serve more authentic versions of it. Just depends on where you go in the United States. Again, I'll talk more about this when we get to Sunday, obviously. Hey, We Fly Daily, good to see you. And Planet Neutral, welcome on in, to the both of you. Good to see you. Definitely check out their stream today. Definitely check out both their channels. They're awesome people. Love their streams and stuff. Good to see you both. We're just sitting on our way to our first stop at Tuxtla Gutierrez, um, which is located in the Chiapas state of Mexico, the largest city in Chiapas. I think it's a good time we talk about so we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about Tuxtla Gutierrez. Go pop, pop. There we go. Here he is. Yeah, we're doing these two routes. So Tuxtla Gutierrez, by the way. Now, this city here is the capital, largest city of the Mexican southeast state of Chiapas. It's among the most, which has the most developed and populous in the state. It has a rather busy government, commercial, and service-oriented city. It's one of the fast-growing rates in Mexico over the last 40 years. However, compared to many other areas in the state, it's not a tourist attraction, but a transport hub for tourists coming into the state. The state definitely has some really interesting tourist places, mainly Tapachulca, one of them. And of course, there's a couple other ones. Well, but this city is still very important for historically. The city itself was actually founded originally as a village in 400 BC, but the modern city was not founded until 1848. Its population is around 604,000 people in the municipality. There's some really cool, some historical stuff, but mainly the big thing about this city is its local celebrations of St. Mark's Day and Feria Chiapas. St. Mark's Fair happens every April and honors the patron saint Mark the Evangelist, and offers offerings, fireworks, um, and pilgrimages. And then the Feria Chiapas include bullfights, horse racing, exhibitions of many of the products in the state. It also has a rich heritage of the indigenous Zoc people, including a ritual called the Virgin Mary's Descent, as they carry by foot from the Chiapa Church down to the valley. And of course, it also has this unique cuisine too. Much of its specialties include pictus, which is sweet corn tamale, chispota, beef with chickpeas and cabbage, and choquito, pork and adobo sauce. And of course, one of the more unique specialties of this area is nusu, which is actually edible ants, which often come out during the rainy season, and they're very rich in proteins. And the carne molida tartara, which is spicy ground meat cooked in lime juice with onions, tomato, and cilantro, which is pretty cool stuff about it as well. So it's definitely a pretty cool city. Of course, we're flying to its main airport. Yeah, yummy food. Mexico's food, by the way. I keep talking about it, but Mexican food. Mexico is such a great cuisine. It really is among the world's best cuisine. That's why extra protein. Yeah, yeah, But no, but seriously though, Mexico's cuisine is so important for Mexico that it's literally enshrined in the United Nations. Um, no joke, it's actually one of UNESCO's list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity, which is pretty crazy to think about. That cuisine is actually literally it's really intangible by UNESCO. And that's saying a lot. There are not many other cuisines that could probably say that. Yeah, Mexico's culture is very rich, and that's why Mexico is really cool. Mexican food. I'm a big fan of Mexican food myself. But yeah, we'll talk more about that Sunday because there's so many dishes I can't even begin. And mind you, it's not just different based on just what kind of stuff, but also so so that's Tuxtla Gutierrez, the city, just for you guys to know. We'll be arriving at the airport very soon. This is Tuxtla Gutierrez Airport. We will be um. So this is Tuxtla Gutierrez International Airport, Mike Tango Golf. It's actually the nation's 15th busiest airport, situated in the municipality of Chiapa de Corzo. It serves air traffic for the Tuxtla Gutierrez region and the civic part of Chiapas. Um, its first commercial airport serving it was back in 1957. However, they built a newer one here, and this is one of the newer airports built in the region. Currently has one runway, 1432, which is at 8,200 feet runway space. Currently, its main route is to Mexico City, but also have routes to Guatemala City, Cancun, Guadalajara, Merida, which is a real life route we're doing now, Monterrey, Tijuana, and Leon. Some of the main routes from Mexico from this airport. So it serves mainly destinations in Mexico. And, oh yeah, last year it was 1.778 million people flew been around this airport. Of course, this won't be nothing compared to when we get to Mexico City, which which is Mexico's busiest airport and one of the busiest airports in Latin America, and it's among the top 20 busiest in the world. So we'll talk all about Mexico City. That airport has a pretty rich history. So yeah, there's so many really cool areas I mean, there's some great airports in Mexico there. I know a lot of people like to fly to like Cancun or Mexico City, but I really enjoy flying to like Guadalajara. Puerto Vallarta is really neat to fly to. Monterey is really cool. Like I said, a Mexico hub for Fireflyer would be absolutely sick. Plus, I mean, it serves Latin America, and we needed another Latin America hub because don't get me wrong, Quito's really cool. But that's in South America. I would like to have a more northern. There's a lot of really cool areas in Mexico I want to do some flying. And I really do enjoy flying to Mexico. It's always been nice to fly around Mexico. There's a lot of really cool airports to fly in and out of the country. So don't worry, Zippy. That would be great to meet me in Tuxedo Gutierrez. No worries, Zippy. That sounds good, my dude. We'll park in there and I'll taxi for a bit, stop here, and give you plenty of time to load in. We'll prepare for our second leg. We're gonna be landing at runway 32 today. That's what Simber gave me. Yeah, for the next couple streams I've got planned, I think I've got the next 7 days planned. So, if you guys wanted to actually know what the next 7 days, um, so after the Port of Alara flight on Sunday, we'll be doing an airliner stream. We'll be doing another one with the airliners. We're gonna fly first from Port of Alara to Mike Charlie Uniform, Chihuahua. We'll fly there. Then from there, we make our way over to Phoenix, Arizona. So we got that on next Friday. And then on Sunday, we got a GA operation. We'll fly from Phoenix over to beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll go from Phoenix. We'll fly the highway. We'll go up to Sedona. Then visit Grand Canyon National Park Airport. and then fly along the Grand Canyon in Lake Mead to Las Vegas International, where Fireflyer has its main West United States hub at. That would be for next week's stream. Then for the next 7 days, we make our way up to there. We'll be doing next would be to Yosemite National Park, up to Lake Tahoe, and then from Lake Tahoe, we'll make our way through. We'll make our way up through. We'll be doing from Tahoe. We'll make our way to Salt Lake City before stopping at Jackson Hole, Wyoming. We'll just go through Jackson, Yellowstone National Park, and make our way up through Montana to Glacier National Park. Before eventually heading to the northwest and make our way to Seattle and Vancouver. And I think that would be like the next 7 days. I think that would be a lot of fun. Plus, get to fly through into Vancouver and all that would be super cool. Yes, it is. Mexico City is going to be the next destination. Is Mexico City? Absolutely, it is indeed. Yeah, we're getting pretty close to their final stop. So their airport is down here. Here's Tuxtla Gutierrez. Oh, right. No worries, Zippy. This is Tuxtla Gutierrez to our right. But yeah, mainly if I wanted to fly the airliners, mainly if the country's really huge, or if there's really no other way to get there, or the scenery is just really boring. Is unfortunately what the Yucatan Peninsula is a lot of, is it's just really boring. And I don't want you guys to fly any GA when it's somewhere boring. Unless there's a good reason why I do this. But no, Mexico could be an absolutely gorgeous area to fly in. There's a lot of really neat little GA areas across Mexico. But yeah, if you really want the most scenic GA experience in Mexico, like the Altiplano would be where it's at. With all the mountains and stuff. That's where you really want to be at when you want to fly in Mexico. I'm going to go ahead and set up the auto brakes. So we're going to go. let's see what our land prediction is going to be. Predict. Let's see if our land prediction is going to be first landing here. Yeah, I've done a lot of some really cool stuff, but I think mostly the legs going to be for the airliners are going to be mainly like. Also, sometimes it may be places that are really boring. Like for example, the airliner stuff is going to be really useful when we get to Oceania, because many of these ocean nations are from the ocean, and you know, there's nothing more boring than to fly over water, because it's just all blue and it's all ocean. It's boring. So mm, okay, and finally, with go ahead and deploy the landing gear, and we're ready to make our first landing of the day. Tuxedo Gutierrez. Hey, nice. Welcome back, Zippy. And landing gear, landing gear. Oh. Hey. Yep, it's my Discord. If you guys want to join in, you guys are more welcome to join in on my Discord. We got foggy landing here in Mexico. Here we go. Tuxedo Gutierrez. Now, one of the really cool things about flying in Mexico and it's just the fact there's a wide variety of scenery to pick from. Of course, you have the tropical rainforests of the Yucatan, the mountainous plateau area in the center of the country. You got the deserts like Baja California and Sonora, and the mountainous regions around Monterrey. Tons of really cool scenery in Mexico. Here it is. Tuxedo Gutierrez. 对啊。A little bit on the rougher side, but at least we got it down. At least we got her down. Go ahead and turn the brakes. Go ahead and turn off the flight drive. You're definitely on Southeast Asia. Yep, it says Southeast Asia right here. Yep, it's Southeast Asia. And estimation point info. Here we go. Yeah, we're definitely on Southeast Asia, my dude. Oh, yeah, Dougall's problem. Yeah, multiplayer sometimes doesn't work. Yeah, Dougall's also been having those issues for a long time. Yep. Right to that one, that's for sure. So that completes leg one. Once we get parts, we'll set up for the next leg into Mexico City. Mike, X-ray. Oh, good old Mexico City, one of the world's great cities, one of the world's most largest and most important. Here, Ray. We'll stop right here. We'll get parking. Oh, nice. That's good. The multiplayer work. Good. We're gonna park here. We'll get a rest. So anyone else wants to fly along, you don't have to take the airliners. You could easily take the take a business jet. That should definitely keep up with the 7.3. Oh, nice. Could be the 7.2. I haven't gotten the 7.2 yet. Just because, like I said, I mean, I'm a Boeing guy, but I want to wait to see what Raul does with his I want to see what Raul does with his Let me get this flight plan set up. Powerful. Perfect. Okay, I got the flight plans. Oh, no, Mexico? I'm taking the 727. Oh, that's right. That's true. Brawls is not out. But I am kind of interested about the 72. It's just, it's way different than before. I know they got some stuns and stuff. But I really am interested to see how the 727 performs. Okay, so I got the plan set up. Let me go ahead and reset this. Let's make a new flight plan. Mike, Tango, Golf. 3-3. Oh, it's 3-2. Mike, X-ray. IZE. UT1. Go ahead and refuel. This one's going to be sent. Zero 6509. Now, if it's one thing about Mexico City that's going to be pretty interesting, though, is the altitude. 100. And I'm going to change it 109. I'm going to go ahead and turn on the flight director, turn on auto throttle. Now, the landing altitude is going to be at a very high 7,300 feet. So I'm going to set this to 7,300 because Mexico City, mind you, it's actually a very it's quite a high altitude airport. So you're going to have a lot of altitude. Readjust the So we're going to taxi all the way to runway 32. Hey, Filthy, good to see you. We're heading our way over to Mexico City. We stopped for our first leg here at Tuxtla Gutierrez. And now we're gonna head to Mexico's capital, largest city, Mexico City. Should be an absolutely gorgeous flight. If you guys ever did any landings in Mexico City, Mexico City's always has got a great approach. And we're doing the 05 right approach. So we're gonna fly over much of the mountains and make our way to downtown Mexico City. And trust me, Mexico City is absolutely massive. If you guys ever looked at any Google Earth stuff, it's huge. Good to see it, Filthy. I hope you're getting ready for the weekend. I know Mer's gonna be back for the weekend. Should be exciting. So we'll talk about the economy and transportation in Mexico. I I don't really want to talk too much since this isn't going to be a super long flight. It's going to be about an hour and 9 minute flight from here to Mexico. Second. Let's go ahead and get ready for departure. Here we go. Departure out of here's Zippy. 80 knots. 18. 20.
Launching. Positive rate of climb.
Go. We're going to be climbing to 36,000 feet. So once we get to Exomo, we're going to head to our first waypoint in Exomo. And then we'll head up to IZT, which that's Ixapec, right across the coast, or on Mexico's southern coast. We're going to climb to 36,000 feet for this one. There's the city right below us, and you can tell ahead of us there is the national park Canyon de Sumidera. It's an entire canyon over here. You can fly over to the canyon and check out all this area. So there isn't too many Microsoft news I do want to talk about before we get here. I know, but yeah, there isn't too many news on MSFS add-ons. So they did. So Phoenix did explain the differences between their A319 and A321, which is basically they actually see some differences between. They actually are doing a lot of work to have the different characteristics between each of the different A320 family planes, the A319 and 21. For example, so they bring some differences mainly with different fuel pumps for the A321 instead of the A319 have their own different fuel pump systems. They also enhance some of the flight modeling and handling. They also they had to actually retune their entire fly-by-wire system stuff for the A321. Definitely pretty interesting. I'm not an Airbus guy, but I mean, I'm really excited for when Phoenix finally gets their A319 and 21 in the sim. I mean, I'm not an Airbus guy, but I'd be very excited for all your Airbus pilots. But yeah, Wednesday was a pretty huge stuff because they had a lot of news on Wednesday. So first is going to be the New World update, which is going to come out soon, hopefully. Is going to be Germany, Austria, and Switzerland again. It will be our second time we'll be visiting these areas again. So some of the new photogrammetry area include Berlin, Aarau, Potsdam, Frankfurt, Hanau are going to be like the areas for Germany to photogrammetry. And Germany's airport is Munich, which is actually really exciting because for Munich, the only area that there's scenery for is from Simwings, which is actually a really good payware, and there's also a freeware version of it in FSTO. Um, there's also really good freeware Munich too, but for a lot of those on Xbox that can't get the freeware Munich airport, this would be pretty nice for you guys who are freeware. Like for example, some of you guys that can't get the freeware on FSTO can now get the handcrafted Munich airport, which is very exciting. Oh, nice! Thank you, Typhon. The 20 seconds. That's gonna be pretty quick. And of course, Austria is going to have updated Vogelschild for Linz, Vienna, Salzburg, and Salzburg Airport's going to be the new handcrafted one, which, by the way, Salzburg is absolutely gorgeous to fly into the sim. Salzburg would be a fantastic area to fly around in. Very, very exciting airport. And then finally, Switzerland's going to be updated Vogelschild for Zurich and Bern, with Bern Airport being the new handcrafted airport for Bern. So pretty exciting stuff. Yeah, pretty exciting stuff. And they got some new handcrafted scenery and stuff. Pretty cool. World Update 19 is going to come in December, which is going to be very exciting because that is one that's very anticipated as Brazil. But honestly, I'm very happy because South America is going to finally get some attention. Because South America is one of the more forgotten areas in the sim, so happy to see South America finally get a world update. I'm pretty interested to see what they want to bring as handcrafted airports in Brazil. I know Galileo is handcrafted, but there's some really interesting options they could do with the handcrafted airport. Maybe Santo Dumont gets handcrafted, which I think that's a very likely airport to get handcrafted is Santo Dumont. Because of its rich history and stuff, would be a prime candidate for the handcrafted treatment. Similarly, Sao Paulo's Congonhas Airport is very similar. That could also really use some handcrafted treatment. That can use a handcrafted treatment. There's also a lot of other airports too, as well, that could get some facility here. Hey, A310 Captain, good to see you. Do you have a mod that makes airplane? I don't have it right now. I think there is a mod that helps you with the planes more realistic, but I don't really know any of that. Like I don't know what it is, but I think others might. I think it's some. I know. I know. I know. I mean, Join FS has something like that, but I don't think it. I don't know. I think it's something. I think it's on. I think it's FSTO has it, but I don't know. Just being honest, that's I don't really do any too many mods. I don't know. But yeah, someone else in chat probably do, but I don't know. I really don't. I, I can't really. There's okay, but no, I don't really know. Okay, I'm just being honest. Probably the wrong guy to ask that guy. Okay, for other flight sim news, there's the aircraft avionics update, and they're currently working on one for the A310, A320 Neo, and the PC-6 Plus Porter, which would be pretty exciting because um so that's definitely gonna be pretty nice to see those two get some improvements. And of course, the PC-6 Porter has currently vigorously worked on. Then another one that I'm pretty excited for is the ATR. I haven't taken the ATR on a stream in quite a while. I know I took it out for the Flight series, but they're now bringing both the ATR Stol and the ATR Freighter, which is going to be really exciting because that opens up some really cool flight opportunities. For the Stol version, I was thinking like Norway and the Nordic countries. And of course, the freighter, I'm thinking immediately of Canada. Because I know the Dash 8 isn't in the sim, but man, the air would work beautifully for some freighter stuff. That would be like the perfect. No worries, A310 Captain. No worries. I don't really know, but thank you for asking them. And finally, for the local legend, the new local legend added to it is actually a plane I'm also really interested in, and that is the Focke-Wulf 200 Condor, the quad prop German airliner. It was the first non-stop trip from Berlin to New York from a land plane. It was way ahead of its time, the Condor, because unlike many other planes of its era, this can actually do transatlantic stops from a land plane at a time where seaplanes were the preferred way to travel nonstop across the ocean. And this is, but it's really cool that we finally get this plane in the cinema. It's very exciting and honestly, it looks really, really good. I can't wait to do some work with it. And it's developed not only by AnyBuilds, but a collaboration with Oliver Moser, who, if you guys aren't aware, he developed the very first local legend in the sim, his Junkers J52, which became a longtime favorite of mine. Even after all these years, the J52 is still one of my favorites. It looks absolutely awesome. I can't wait. And then finally, for other news as well, he's currently, for example, fixing a few other issues like DLS for glass cockpits, 6-route axis for 2024, more updates for general aviation planes, Discover Series tutorials are back. They cut off, the World Hub cutoff is delayed, and finally, for the Brazil local legend is going to be the CAP4 Palestina, handmade in Brazil. Yeah, his stuff is very good. I really like. It's not just the J52 that was really good. His J13 was also really good. Like that made me very excited for the Condor because Oliver's really talented for that. And with any build's help, I think it's going to be a very good airliner, especially for the vintage. I'm very excited for that. We're currently still climbing to 36,000 feet. So we're going to talk a bit about Mexico's economy for a bit. Um, Now, Mexico's economy is still developing. However, it actually is the 15th largest nominal GDP in the world at 1.15 trillion US dollars. It's currently the 12th largest in the world, and things have improved significantly since the 1994 crisis. And surprisingly, it's actually kept a lot of macroeconomic stability, which means there's not a lot of inflation and interest rate. However, despite that, though, there's gaps between the urban and rural population, the northern southern states, and the rich and poor. There's still a lot of income inequality here in Mexico. However, one of the benefits of Mexico's economy nowadays has been the rapidly developing industrial and service sectors, as well as increased private ownership, has greatly increased Mexico's economy, and it's only going to continue to rise more and more and more. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Mexico, by the end of the decade, in the late 2020s, 2030, is going to be a top 10 economy globally, which is pretty crazy to think about. To think Mexico would be one of the wealthier countries in GDP would be pretty impressive. Which is pretty crazy to think about. But it's due to the fact there are so many things Mexico has done in a lot of sectors. There's many sectors in the Mexican economy that makes it very important. One of which is agriculture, which has always been a long time important sector of Mexico's economy. Mexico has tons of different agricultures. In fact, many of domesticated plants actually originate here in Mexico, including maize, corn, beans, tomatoes, squash, cotton, millet, avocados, cow, many various spices, and more. Mexico has been a major part of agriculture for years. And nowadays, its main crops include grains, tropical fruits, and vegetables. and mainly its exports are coffee, tropical fruits, and winter fruits. And they're a big part of Mexico's economy nowadays. There's tons of different crops. In fact, Mexico is among the world's largest producers of sugarcane, maize, orange, tomato, chili peppers, lemon, sorghum, mango, avocado, papaya, bananas, and coconuts. But agriculture's always been a big part of it. And the big reason for why Mexico has so much agriculture is, again, a wide variety of different climates and conditions. What led to Mexico becoming a major agricultural power in agriculture. Nowadays, it's not really as big as it used to be, but agriculture still is historically still been very important for Mexico. Now, another thing that Mexico's always been historically been strong with economically has been its mining. Mexico is the world's largest producer of silver, as well as top 10 in gold, copper, and lead. Copper, gold, copper. It's okay. Let me. It's among the top 10 large producers of gold, copper, lead, zinc, and molybdenum, as well as mercury, bismuth, and around one of the large producers of manganese and phosphate. Also a top 10 producer of salt. Mining is a big part in Mexico, and again, Mexico is very mineral rich. In fact, about silver, silver was actually one of the big reasons why Spain valued Mexico during the colonial era. That's why the Spanish went all of his links to get Mexico's silver. Silver mine was a big part for Mexico. That was because of it. Now, mostly nowadays, a lot of Mexico's government to nationalize all of it so Mexico can keep its lithium mines for nationalization. Of course, nowadays, one of the biggest growing sectors, though, is industry, and it's been growing rapidly. Thanks to all the trade liberalization agreements, mainly NAFTA, it accounted for almost 50% of all export earnings in Mexico. Most notably, one of the most important sectors in all of Mexico's industry has been the automobile industry, whose standards of quality are internationally recognized. And it produces some really important components in research and development in Mexico. And many of the automobile manufacturers include the big three of General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler, Volkswagen, and Nissan, as well as Toyota, Honda, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz have participated in companies manufactured in Mexico. In fact, in Puebla alone, which is outside of Mexico City, over 70 industrial part makers cluster around Volkswagen, and that's just in Puebla. It also has a small domestic but nowadays most of the manufacturing has been exporting. But it's not just cars that it also exports. They also have other industries too, including Cemex, which is the world's largest construction company, cement producer. You have alcohol beverages, including Grupo Modelo, conglomerates like FEMSA, which is the largest single producer of alcohol beverage in the world. And of course, they're also one of the second largest Coca-Cola bottlers. And of course, nowadays, it's even developing an aerospace industry, believe it or not. In fact, they make a lot of assembly of helicopter regional jet fuselages with, with firms such as MD Helicopters, Bell, Cessna, and Bombardier, building all sorts of helicopter parts in Mexico. And of course, a lot of, but basically that is kind of a bit of importance for Mexico's industry. But it has been growing. And it's not just automobile and manufacturing stuff too. Believe it or not, one of Mexico's most important industries has been electronics. And you guys wouldn't believe this if I told you this, but Mexico is actually the sixth largest electronics industry in the world, trailing China, the US, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. Yes, Mexico, of all things, believe it or not. In fact, they're the second largest exporter of electronics to the U.S., and they mainly dominated by OEM design of televisions, displays, computers, mobile phones, and more. So a lot of companies make their way into Mexico. So pretty crazy to think about that Mexico has um with industries. Of course, oil's a pretty big deal here too, and lots of manufacturing stuff. There are so many important services of all of Mexico. It's crazy how much Mexico's economy can grow. And I'm gonna tell you this, guys. If Mexico could ever control its crime issues with the drug cartels and keep its society stable, Mexico's future is gonna be insanely bright. That's despite all the turbulence in Mexico's history. Pretty impressive to think about. Of course, not only yeah, bets a lot of those use Dutch meat and as chips. Yes, I bet they probably do. Fun. Of course, services are a big deal, and of course, services actually make up to nearly 6% of its GDP. But I mainly want to talk about tourism a bit because Mexico is one of the world's most visited countries and has had a lot of history with one of the world's most visited countries. And to be fair, it makes sense. Mexico is a very important area for tourism. In fact, um, in fact, a lot of people come to Mexico from the U.S. and Canada, and it's among the best areas for tourism, which is pretty crazy to think about. And the reason why Mexico is such a big deal for tourism is there's so many reasons why Mexico is just such a great place to visit. Because it has lots of UNESCO World Heritage sites, from ancient ruins and colonial cities to natural reserves. You've got great beaches around the coast. It's got some great beaches on both the Atlantic and Pacific sides. Got some great beaches. And of course, Mexico also has an insanely rich culture. Mexico's culture is really rich and very diverse. So Mexico is just a one of a kind place of just so much history. Of course, Mexico. There's a lot of different stuff as well, but tourism has been a big deal, and there's a lot of really cool places in Mexico. I mean, there's so many great tourist destinations, and that's just across Mexico. Of course, you have Mexico City with all of its stuff. Of course, Eastern Mexico and Yucatan, you got Cancun, very popular tourist destination. You got places like Chichen Itza, Uxmal, Mayan cities to visit. And of course, you also got Northwest Mexico with all sorts of beaches like Cabo, Ensenada, Puerto Vallarta, which we will be visiting as well. Mazatlan, got tons of great beaches and coast. There's just so many tons of places. And of course, you can't forget about its cuisine and culture. Mexico's just such a cool country to visit. There's still a lot of Mexico I really want to explore. I enjoyed my time in Mexico twice. It's such a really cool area to visit. It really is. Definitely among the countries. There's still so much of Mexico I want to visit. Chichen Itza in Yucatan. I want to check out Mexico City, Guadalajara, Monterrey. Those would be cool areas to visit. Just really cool. So, here's our scenery out here today. So we're actually climbing up the Mexican Altiplano. We're climbing pretty high up there. That's Mexico's economy, everyone. Just want along with you. Could be quite a bit better. So we're in the state of Oaxaca. How about you? Oaxaca. Yeah, Oaxaca. Oaxaca. Yeah, this is the state of Oaxaca. Actually, it's actually known for its indigenous people culture, including the Zapotecs and Mixtecs are the two big indigenous groups. But there are also 16. There's also 16 others as well. The terrain here is pretty rugged. Obviously, is a very rugged area, and it's very mountainous. Very mountainous terrain in this area, so you get some pretty interesting terrain. And it's also the most biodiverse rich area in all of Mexico. Over 8,400 plant species, as well as 1,400 vertebrate species, which accounts for half of all species in Mexico. Home to all sorts of animals, from giant stick insects to grasshoppers, to fish and shellfish. Tons of really big national parks. Of course, also this state's well known for its unique culture. And yes, Mexico's culture is quite diverse. It's known for its seven moles. It's also known for a unique specialty called chapulines, aka grasshopper. Which, hey, I mean, there's plentiful amounts of them all across the area. And of course, the bitter chocolate drink is actually was actually originated here. So, there's tons of really cool tourist attractions too: beaches, Mayan sites, the old colonial towns all over. And of course, there's some pretty big important people in Mexico history from this state. Most notably, Benito Juarez, who is the president of Mexico, uh, as well as Porfirio Diaz. As well, two important presidents came from Oaxaca, from the state. As well as some other famous painters, as well as several athletes, including Vinny Castilla and Javier Aquino. So, pretty important stuff. We'll be following this area through to Mexico City. We're just about 246 nautical miles from Mexico City, Mexico. You know, look at the mountains terrain all across this area. Now there's Oaxaca, which is the biggest city in this state. Yeah, there's just so many really cool airports and so many cool areas around this. Yeah, look at that. All the mountains there. beautiful areas around Mexico. So we're going to be approaching Mexico City's main airport. Let's see how much longer until we. Okay, it's going to be a little bit longer. But I guess we can talk about another part of our slides. Here's mining and all that. So we'll talk about Mexico's transportation for a bit. Mexico's transportation is going to be despite Mexico's difficult topography, it's actually got one of the most extensive roadways in the world. It has a total mileage of over 227 miles of roadway, in which 72,000 are paved. The ninth largest of any country. Is one of the most connected countries in the world by highways. It's also one of the first Latin America to promote railway development. Over 19,000 miles of rail. And of course, there's also over 233 airports in Mexico. 35 of them carry 97% of the traffic, and Mexico City is the largest and busiest of airports. Yeah, Mexico is a very well-connected country. Despite all the terrain and stuff, it's still find a way to connect to each other here in Mexico. Pretty big deal. It's very crazy to think about that Mexico has had so much areas for sure. But of course, I do want to talk about its flag carrier. Aeromexico is the flag carrier of Mexico. It's actually officially known as Aerobías de Mexico, Airways of Mexico. It is the flag carrier of Mexico, based in Mexico City, founded all the way in 1934. It's almost going to be a month away from being 90 years old. It schedules to more than 90 destinations in Mexico, North, South, and Central America, Caribbean, Europe, and Asia. It works closely with Delta, which owns part of the airline. In addition to its main hub in Mexico City, they also operate secondary hubs in Guadalajara and Monterrey. That's what they mainly open. Hey, Aquatic Cookie, good to see you. Hello, hello. I hope you're doing well, Aquatic Cookie. We're about to make our way to Mexico City. We should get here pretty shortly, but we're talking briefly about Aeromexico, the flag carrier of Mexico. It's also one of the 4 founding members of the SkyTeam Alliance, along with Air France, Delta, and Korean Air as the 4 founding members of SkyTeam. So the history dates back to 1934, when they founded as Aeronaves de Mexico by Antonio Diaz Lombardo. First aircraft was the Stinson Reliant, and the first flight was from Mexico City over to Acapulco in September 14, 1934. Acapulco is which is actually in southern Mexico, and historically it was actually a very important area during the Spanish Empire as one of the major ports for the Manila galleon route. During the World War II era, the airline continued to grow thanks to Pan Am, which owned a quarter of the airline. However, during the 50s, they took over very small competitors across the country, and they added some new aircraft, the DC-3 and later the DC-4. And then during the 50s, the DC-4s were replaced by both the DC-6, but also the turboprop Bristol Britannias. And then in 1958, they inaugurated their flight over to New York City, which later proved to be very profitable between Mexico City and New York. In the 1960s, they replaced some of the with some jets. And the first jet that to get to Mexico's airline was the Douglas DC-8s, mainly used between Mexico and New York City. And then later in the decade, they operated more DC-8s, as well as adding some leased de Havilland Comets to their fleet. They also resumed service to Europe, of course. And then in the 70s brought a lot of changes, mainly thanks to the government. All the domestic airlines were nationalized into Aeromexico. They retired the remaining DC-6 and Bristol Britannias. And of course, they also got one of the launch customers of the Douglas DC-10, as well as its Douglas DC-9s, and it helped grow popularity even more so within Mexico. In the 80s, they started some new privatization campaigns and expansion. They added more DC-10s to the fleet, as well as the MD-82 Mad Dog to their fleet. Unfortunately, the company also suffered its only fatal accident in the decade on August 31st, 1986, when a DC-9 was struck by a light aircraft, and all 64 passenger crew died in the DC-9. But it was the only time Aeromexico ever suffered an accident, fatal accident. In the 1990s, and then they did some privatization of the airline. And then the 90s were quite a turbulent time for Aeromexico, mainly with fuel cost, as well as domestic fare war with other startup airlines and labor problems. They also added some new Boeing 767-200s to replace the old DC-10s. They also took over the second largest airline in Mexico, Mexicana. Then, of course, the 2000s, they also founded Sky Team back in 2000. Founded Sky Team. Then they continued to renovate its fleet with Boeing 737s and 777s as well. They also flew to Asia for the first time during the 2000s, flying from Mexico City to Shanghai. And then during the 2010s was mainly with working with Delta. Delta actually bought quite a bit of the shares of it when they went bankrupt back in 2020 due to COVID. Yes, I know COVID was a big drain in the airline industry. Like all main travel industries, COVID was a really good time if you're in the travel industry. That's about Aeromexico's history, of course, of Aeromexico. In terms of their destinations, they serve a lot of destinations. Like, kid you not, Aeromexico serves all across the globe, including both Americas, Europe, Middle East, and Asia. The only places that they don't fly to is Oceania. Oceania and Africa are the only two places they don't fly out of Mexico. So some of the destinations domestically include Cancun, Guadalajara, Monterrey, and San Jose de Cabo. And internationally, they serve a ton of international destinations, but some of the most notable include New York City, Los Angeles, Sao Paulo, Brazil, Madrid, Spain, and Tokyo, Japan. But they serve a ton of destinations. Hey, good to see you. Have you flown to Ireland yet? I've flown Ireland plenty of times in the sim. Not in this journey though. That would be way until later in the journey. But we'll be flying our way to Ireland pretty. It won't be until a whole year or something to fly to Ireland. But we will. But I've flown to Ireland plenty of times in this. In flying for Aeromexico's fleet, they operate mainly an all Boeing fleet, including the 737-800, 737 MAX family of MAX 8s and 9s, and then 2 variants of the Spoon 787 Dreamliner. They mainly use, there are 109 total currently, mainly with the 737s. Formerly, they used to fly planes like the DC, the DC, the McDonnell Douglas DC-10, and the Mad Dogs, Bristol Britannia. So that's kind of been the main planes that Aeromexico has flown during the time. So that is Aeromexico, if you guys want to know about it. It's Mexico's flag carrier. We'll talk all about Mexican culture next week. On Sunday, we'll talk about the rest about Mexico's. And I will be talking plenty of that. Yeah, look at the scenery here. Yeah, we're going to be flying through some mountains and hilly areas. That's right. So we're going to be heading towards Mexico City. We're just about 140 nautical miles, but let's go ahead and talk about Mexico City while we're here. Of course, Mexico City is the capital largest city in Mexico. It's also the most populous in all of North America. Its metropolitan area is at its current capital, Mexico City, is actually 9 million people. If you look at its metropolitan area, in urban area, it goes to a whopping 23.1 million people. It was actually found. It's actually a pretty old city too. See, this city was actually originally founded as Tenochtitlan in 1325. It was actually built on Lake Texcoco. It was nearly completely destroyed back in 1521. It was actually rebuilt by the Spanish, and they did that by draining the lake out of Lake Texcoco. Yes, Mexico City was built on a lake. All of it was. Um, in fact, this area is actually sinking. By the way, you guys aren't aware. But Mexico City is actually the largest Spanish-speaking city in the world. Its GDP is $411 billion. And if it were to be and this city became independent, it would be the 5th largest economy in Latin America. And it's the oldest capital city in the Americas. And of course, Mexico City has not only does it have a very rich history, with being the heart of the Aztec Empire, and of course being the main city of colonial Spain, but Mexico itself has a really rich history with the culture. It's a culturally rich city. There's tons of artwork and statues, um, including the monument of Benito Juarez, the National Art Museum, and of course, this area has tons of museums of art, from the National Museum of Anthropology to the Museum of Sumaya, with all sorts of pre-Hispanic art, the Memory and Tars Museum, tons of museums and stuff, lots of music, lots of orchestra and music areas like the City Theater. And of course, let's not forget Mexico City's cuisine. Lots of street food in Mexico City. There's tons of good looking street food. Tacos, barbacoa, enchiladas, tortillas. Um, Pozole, which is basically Mexican stew. In fact, Mexico City also has 7 restaurants that receive Michelin stars, making it one of the world's great food cities. Also, it's kind of rich in sports. Mainly the big part about sports here in Mexico is, of course, Azteca, the largest stadium in Latin America. It seats 91,000 people. And they even hosted the Olympics here in Mexico City, too. And the FIFA World Cup twice was held in Mexico City. And it's also one of the host seats for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. So in 2 years, this is going to be one of the seats for the FIFA World Cup. Yeah, really cool stuff. Mexico City is a city. There's just so many really cool areas in this city. It's a big tourism part. There's just so many places for it. And of course, if there's one place you really want to check out Mexico City, there is the historic center. Got tons, I mean tons of historical stuff. The historic center of Mexico City, as you just check out. I mean, over 9,000 buildings in the capital. There's just so many areas here. You got the cathedral, the national Montcad, and of course you could even visit some of the really cool stuff. In addition to this as well, Mexico City's got, of course, the Golden Angel of Independence, which is the most notable icon of Mexico City. The Paseo de la Reforma, Wine Avenue, and of course, one of the other areas you can find here is, of course, the floating garlands of Zoicholo. There's just a lot of really cool places. And of course, there's just so many places for visiting. Check out. Yeah, Jesus, yeah, it's gonna be 4 years old. It's crazy to think about. Pretty cool stuff. Now, of course, the airport we'll be visiting today is going to be Benito Juarez Airport. This is this is the main gateway to Mexico City. Opened back in 1931. It's the world's 17th busiest airport in the world, and it is also the busiest airport in Mexico and Latin America, and the eighth busiest in North America, with over 48.4 million people flying out of Mexico City. It serves more than 25 airlines to over 100 destinations in Mexico, the Americas, Europe, and even Asia. And it's the primary hub for Aeromexico, as well as a hub for Volaris and Viva Aerobus. Um, there's two main passenger terminals and two runways. Also serves cargo and as a military base. And it's been around since the 1930s. There's a lot of congestion stuff at this airport. It's been an issue since the 2000s, so they had to build a new Mexico City airport. So eventually they're building a new one in Felipe Angeles Airport, which is the secondary airport. They're trying to get new ones because obviously this place is pretty congested. But actually, I think they're built. I think this looks like they're building a new. But eventually, they're actually building a new airport, Mexico City Texcoco Airport, which is going to be. Yeah, they serve tons of destinations out of this airport. Um, Aeromexico flies to places like Austin, Amsterdam, Bogota. They fly to all sorts. Like Mexico City flies over to Austin, Amsterdam, Bogota, Buenos Aires, Cancun, Chicago, Los Angeles. They fly all across the globe. They even fly to Tokyo. Tokyo. They fly to Paris, Tokyo, Montreal, Seoul. They fly to so many big cities. They also have other destinations that include Shenzhen, London, Vancouver, Houston. It's pretty. Las Vegas as well as in our destinations, Vegas. Yeah. ridiculous amount of destinations flying out of Mexico. Pretty big city here. Yeah, if you look out your window, we can actually see some beautiful volcanoes, and yeah, there are some all over. Look at the scenery here, the mountains, all the volcanoes and stuff. Yeah, this area is rich in volcanic activities. The Mexico City will always be an interesting approach for this. We're gonna stay here at we're gonna stay at 17,000 feet for a little bit. You get a very nice approach into Mexico. Always a fun approach to get to there. Always. Ah, uh, that's 4 years old. It's hard to believe this. Probably we're getting a new sim later. we go, guys. Go ahead and get ready for drop down again. Yeah, senior outside of Mexico City sports. We're out here today. But yeah, I'm happy to say the weekend's finally come, guys. So we're going to be doing some flying here next. Yeah, I think a hub in Mexico would be nice for this virtual airline. It'd be a nice area to put a hub. Mexico. Do some flying. Yeah, I'm very excited for this weekend, guys. I still got plenty of flying to do over the weekend, so we got some pretty important flight plans for the week. I guess the approach is gonna take us a bit. Look at these. Here we go, guys. Let's do some land predictions, guys. Let's go ahead and do exclamation point predict. Start with a negative number. Doing so. So Mexico City, some more information about Mexico City. According to TripAdvisor, so if you look at the top 15 things to do in Mexico City, if you're a tourist here and you wanted to actually check out Mexico City, they have all sorts of different tours and stuff. But some of the top attractions include the National Anthropology Museum, one of the world's most well-known natural history museums, the Chapultepec Castle, the Palacio de Bellas Artes. You have this historic square of Zocalo, the historic cathedral of Mexico City. There's also the archaeological zone of Teotihuacan. But there's tons of stuff to do around Mexico City. There's stuff. That's here's Mexico City. And I think, yeah, that's Azteca. That's Azteca, all right. There's Azteca. That's where the famous football stadium was. Here we go, guys. Now, the nice thing about Mexico City is that we have quite a bit of a long runway, 13,000. We're going to land auto break 3. Now going to Mexico City. There's the historic center of Mexico City in this area. Look at the size of this city. It's enormous. City. Run the city. Whew. That was a nice landing, guys. Welcome to Mexico City. We're going to go ahead and actually, right? Turn off the flight directors. Yeah, this could definitely be a great hop for the airline. There's now we've been to Mexico City on one of our streams before, for our flight from Monterrey and Puerto Vallarta. So this is not our first time here in Mexico City. way. Once we stop here, we'll go set up the raid. Let's see who we can find her with. Oh, I know Alex and all of them are doing MSF as official. Thank you so much, guys, for joining with us. So, no worries, Typhon. We'll be seeing you guys Sunday too. We'll just get parked and we'll wrap up the stream. Just Mexico City Airport. Very cool airport here in Mexico. It's hard to believe that they do flights out of here to Asia. If I got my Great Circle map, how far is it from? How much is it from here to Narita? 6,000 nautical miles from Mexico City to Tokyo. Almost 7,000 to Shanghai. And Mexico City over to Madrid. 4,900 nautical miles to Madrid. Well, guys, we have officially finished the trip here today. We officially landed here in beautiful Mexico City, Mexico. So we'll be back here on Sunday. We'll be flying from Mexico City over to Puerto Vallarta on our general aviation plane. So we'll go set up the raid and say hello to. I may want to try Black Box today, if you guys don't mind. We're gonna check out Black Box 711. We're gonna check out his channel for today. I'm gonna check make sure he's on and not just wrapping up the stream time. Okay, okay, this is a good time. Guys, thank you all so much, and see you all on Sunday.